Henning Rasmussen.
My name is Henning Rasmussen. My wife and I, we own a license in Shepparton. Excuse me. We bought it off my father-in-law, who ran it since 1970 something, and did quite well out of it, and forms part of his super now. And that was what we did for a very similar reason to, was it Ken? Was just saying, a very similar reason to that. That's our super. But it's
when
also,
did you buy it? I didn't hear. No.
we bought it off the father-in-law, so my wife's father.
When?
In 2006.
2006, right here.
Now, to do that at that time, I think the prizes were sitting about $220,000 for a licence in Shepparton, regional Victoria, and we got a little bit of family discount and bought it for $200,000, and we financed part of it with the father-in-law, and currently we, due to my wife's ill health, we've had to lease it out due to the hours that was just mentioned before. And the advantages is that you've got a bit of flex, so you can lease it out, you can run it yourself, or you can drive it yourself, and that's where the flexibility comes into it. And that was why we decided, because it's done well for Martin, that we would take it over. The backside of it now is that if these license values are going to be devaluated, or the license is going to go down, we are in a lot of trouble. My wife and I, and I sent this to yourselves, I sent a short little spreadsheet, and I said the license is approximately worth $220,000 at the moment, and we are owing $218,000 on it. You devaluate that, we got a mortgage that there's nothing to cover it. And that's going to be, a serious implication on my wife and myself, and cause some considerable stress.
Did you say you paid $200,000 for it, but you owe $218,000?
Yes, and since then due to the health of my wife, we've had some issues where we've actually had to borrow money against the license, where we had a little bit of equity. But we've had to borrow money to try and keep on top of that, and we've now put us in, moved closer to Melbourne. I do some consultancy in another field, and we've had to put some measures in place that's going to cover for that. But the problem is that we have more debt in it than what we have of licence value. On top of that, which we were not aware of, but when we entered in 2006, the taxi group in Shepparton had some serious trouble, and some of the directors for the NSP up there, or it wasn't called the NSP, it was called before it was an NSP. They actually got into the ACCC, I think, and got charged for some things, and you're probably familiar with some of those issues. When we got into the group, and this would be 2007-ish, something like that, we asked for the financials for the group, couldn't get them. I asked for some balance sheets for the operational side of it, and we were denied all these things. Now, all of that has resulted in that the VTD had to step in, give the Ballarat taxis basically, and say to run it as for an interim period, and then the Ballarat taxis set up Shepparton taxis, and also a couple of people set it up that here later set up Greater Shepparton taxis, and we now got two groups. And in a relatively small community, that is also an issue. It does provide some opportunities, but there's been a lot of unsettling sort of issues in the whole group as such. And to further that, with that the license is going to be devalued is going to be a kick in the guts for my wife and I. So I don't know who's going to pay for that.
What, you mentioned, did I hear you say consult, you do some other work, is that right?
In the building industry, yes.
In the building industry?
Yes.
In Shepparton?
A lot of what I'm involved in is sort of pioneering work in a certain field, energy efficiency, and the field of which the people that I deal with, most of them, like I was just at a meeting this morning at one of the government departments, and it's in town, a lot of that, and that was why we had to move a bit closer to down to Melbourne. Now, yeah, we're hoping for we're very similar to the gentleman before, where we're once I sort of get a little bit on, I'm fairly up with it at the moment, but once I get a little bit on, it's probably it's very flexible. You can say drive for a couple of days, put drivers in for the next. So operating a taxi license or holding a license is a flexible option, and it also hopefully would provide you with, or provide us with the super. That's the only super my wife and I we've got. We don't have any other super. So we're hoping for that things will turn around. We're hoping for that it'll be a viable option investment-wise. And I'm a little concerned couple of things that I'm a little concerned about the report. First of all is the thickness of it. Like you mentioned before, I don't know how many drivers you're going to find, or even operators or anyone in the industry is going to read all that. And I was actually trying here before, because I got it in PDF format, and I was trying to find where are the recommendations in it, and if you can tell me that, I would appreciate it. So what do you do without Google? I don't know whether there was a life before Google, so I actually had to set it up on the internet and write taxi industry inquiry recommendations, and then I found it, not through the 575 pages. Now, that's one thing, but yeah, probably put things in context a little as well, but now I've forgotten the other one.
I was interested in, it sounds like, in a sense, you borrowed fairly heavily against the licence value.
Yes, did.
And so...
Not initially, we didn't, but we were in a situation where my wife, she's got bipolar mood disorder and hasn't been able to work for probably 6 years or something like that, and I also have to be close to her, and hence the consultancy is working out for us, so that I can stay home with her and work from home, which is an advantage.
The bank was willing to lend a fairly high proportion of the value
of the
of the
time,
licence.
the Bendigo Bank had the policy of 50-50, so they lent us 100, and we financed the other 100 with the father-in-law. And since then, as we've gone along, we've had to increase that with another over the last 6 years now, due to the wife's ill health mainly, and my capacity to probably work for about 20 hours a week. The consultancy is obviously a slightly higher rate, but nevertheless we've struggled and we've had to use up our equity in the licence that we did have, which is unfortunate. But
And that extension of the loan was through Bendigo as well?
no, through the father-in-law.
Sorry.
Father-in-law, so the facility, I guess, but that's under contract, and is administrated by the guardianship list, state trustees. So it's something that it's not it's a family agreement, but it's a written contract, and obviously the people that we're responsible to is VCAT, I guess. I mean, ultimately Martin, he's got Alzheimer's and is unable to follow what's going on. So.
And you're 20 hours a week, you have a carer responsibility, is that?
Yeah, so I'm the carer for my wife.
Yep.
So that's the other thing. So the other issue I have with that report is that the licence holder is seen to be the baddie. Now, I can understand and I can follow what's going on down here, and I can certainly, the two legal aid people that are up here, I can totally agree with the majority of what they say. The solution to it, your 60-40, I actually sat down and did a quick calculation. We operated the licence last financial year 10-11, and we were actually giving, because they were good drivers and good operators, they were actually managing for it for a while, and I had the agreement with them that they got 55, so it's 45-55. If I increase that, I would run at a loss, simple as that, and wouldn't be able to do it. We made $13,000 for that year, and if it was 60-40, I'd run at a loss of about $2,000, simple as that. And well, if you compare it with New South Wales prices, and they're 20% more in the fares, well, sure, you could probably make an allowance for it, but down here, can't. If you do the right thing and you don't cheat anybody, that's just an impossibility, so I might put that in there as well. But,
By the way, do you have children?
got two children, one is 13 and one is 11, and struggling to keep them at school, but financially, but we'll hopefully pull through. That's certainly the lease fees that we're getting. We're currently leasing it at $420 a week, which seemed reasonable at the time. And the way that we've done it with the leasee is that the contract says that when the fares increase, then his lease fee increases. And I think that's a much fairer way to do it rather than go by the CPI or other means. So, but that seems to work for him and seems to work for us. He enjoys the flexibility of it, and he's got some other business that he runs alongside with it, some printing business or something with business cards and things. And yeah, fairly astute gentleman, and not something that, yeah, he's not being kept in the dark and fed whatever, but is actually fully aware of what he's doing, and we've got an agreement that seems to work for him as well. So, but the margins are not big, that's admitted, and I think some of the hardest hit, by what I can tell, in Melbourne areas, I've been driving a few cabs around and asked what kind of money do they take in total, and I'm quite surprised of the response that I get, that we probably actually take more on the meter than what they do down here. And if that's the case, with licence values sitting at, you know, close to $500,000, and lease fees being what they are, then yes, I can start to understand that something needs being done, but something needs being done on both ends. If New South Wales is getting 20% more, we've obviously got a problem with that it's capped, and there is a small margin at the moment, but that small margin, if you go 60-40, gone, and I can't run it. I'll be losing money left, right and centre. So you got to consider all of these matters, and I think you do. That's probably why you got this hearing, and I appreciate the time taken here now as well. So thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much.